The empire of the Galactics extended over the stars. The grandeur of their reach engulfed entire planets and solar systems, molding them to its will. The sleek, massive ships of the Empire, frightful and omnipresent, patrolled all areas of space. Nobody dared to oppose the Empire. Doing so meant obliteration. The Empire ruled for centuries using overwhelming technological dominance. They had grown comfortable in their supremacy, confident that no one could challenge them. The idea that any species, especially one from a backwater Earth-like planet, could pose a threat was unthinkable. Earth, long the subject of the Empire's derision, was dismissed as a relic. Its technology was outdated, its culture primitive at best. Earth was seen as a curiosity at worst, a slight irritation to the Empire. Earth was like a gnat, once visited, long forgotten. A brief evaluation confirmed it. Earth's growth lagged behind by centuries. Its spacecraft were slow, its weaponry antiquated, its innovations unimpressive. Earth was insignificant, a bug in the path of the Empire's grand vision. Arrogance had rooted itself deep within the Empire. Complacency followed, and the belief that they were unbeatable became doctrine. But the Empire was unaware. They couldn't have imagined that Earth had been working in silence. While the Empire's eyes were fixed on larger threats, Earth had been preparing. Technological breakthroughs had been made in secret, hidden from scouts and Imperial spies. Scientists, engineers, and military leaders worked tirelessly. New weaponry, new ship classes, new possibilities. The Empire kept laughing. Earth's representatives were mocked in galactic forums. Their prototypes were sneered at, their vessels ridiculed. Rumors of Earth's progress were treated like myths. But some alien species began to take notice. They watched Earth from afar and started to wonder. Perhaps humans weren't as outdated as the Empire believed. Perhaps their stubbornness, their refusal to give up, meant something more. But still the Empire remained blind. In secret research facilities scattered across Earth and its colonies, something incredible had been created. A new ship. Not massive and bloated like the Empire's war machines. No, sleeker, faster, more agile. It used technology the Empire had never adopted. Ion propulsion, plasma drives, quantum energy cores, phase shift capabilities, weapons that could tear through the very fabric of space. It was called the Vanguard. Humanity knew they couldn't broadcast their triumph too early. It had to remain unseen, unthreatening. The ship needed to be tested discreetly, carefully, far from the Empire's gaze. So the Vanguard set a course for the outer rim of Imperial space. It appeared to be nothing more than a standard scouting vessel, but those aboard the Vanguard knew the truth. They were bait. They were counting on the Empire to respond, to send a fleet. Not too large, just enough to remind Earth of its place. Exactly what Earth was hoping for. Soon, the transmission came. An Imperial patrol had spotted them. 3 ships were dispatched. Standard procedure. No need for more firepower. The Empire believed 3 would be more than enough. The message arrived. You are in breach of Imperial space. Surrender or be annihilated. The crew of the Vanguard exchanged looks. No one spoke. The captain simply nodded. The engines roared to life, and then the Vanguard moved through the darkness of space. It flew silent, fast, deadly. The Empire's ships were taken by surprise. Their plasma weapons fired, lighting up the void, but the Vanguard danced between them, rolling, twisting, avoiding fire with impossible precision. Humanity had spent years preparing for this moment. They knew brute force alone wouldn't win. They needed agility, they needed precision, and they had both. The first shot from the Vanguard wasn't reckless. It was measured. It was devastating. A beam of concentrated energy powered by Earth's new core pierced the lead Imperial ship. It tore through its shields like paper, then detonated inside. One ship down instantly. The others hesitated. They hadn't expected this. Humans weren't supposed to be capable of this. Orders barked, panic rising. Another volley of weapons, but the Vanguard was already moving, already firing. A second ship exploded. The third tried to flee. Its engines screamed, pushing it toward hyperspace, but it never made it. The Vanguard shut it down remotely without firing. The crew surrendered. They had never seen anything like it. And in that silence, drifting among the remains of their fleet, they realized the truth. Earth had arrived. The Empire, undefeated for centuries, had lost. Not to a massive coalition, not to overwhelming force, but to one ship. To Vanguard. And Earth was just getting started. The Empire would retaliate, of course they would, but it didn't matter. What mattered was the message. Earth was no longer a forgotten planet. It was no longer a joke. It was no longer prey. It was a player, a force, a threat. The galaxy would remember this day. The humans had risen. And the Vanguard was only the beginning. People meant for it to remain that way for as long as feasible. The remaining Imperial ship had already started sending out distress signals, desperate for reinforcements. The people were aware that Imperial Command would receive the communication quickly, but they had made calculations. The technology at the forefront was so much more than the Empire had expected, and the people were confident they could outsmart any prompt action. But they were not finished, not yet. The Empire had to recognize the complete scope of what they were dealing with. That meant striking one last blow just before the crew of the Vanguard prepared to retreat. Their movements for the upcoming strike were composed and precise, every choice organized long before now. They were executing it perfectly. Meanwhile, the Empire was rushing to board panic. The remaining ship had arrived. The Imperial commander yelled orders, trying to regain some measure of authority over his vessel. Ship systems continued to function, but they couldn't compete with the Vanguards. His mind raced, trying to find a way out, a way to prevent his crew from suffering the same fate as the others. But deep down, he knew humans had exceeded them in every imaginable way. The Vanguard entered for its final maneuver, its final strike, and there would be no escape. The humans could have destroyed the Imperial cruiser just like the others, but they chose an alternative route, one far more symbolic. They disabled the ship, shut down its engines, disarmed its weaponry, made it powerless. It was clear now. Earth wasn't just about annihilation. They could control the battlefield with precision. Nothing like this had ever happened to the Empire. They were accustomed to overwhelming their enemies, crushing them beneath firepower and numbers. But now a human ship, smaller and seemingly primitive, was effortlessly taking down an Imperial fleet. It wasn't logical, and that was what frightened the Empire most. A disabled Imperial spacecraft drifted in space, its crew humiliated, helpless. The Vanguard knew this was more than a military victory. It was a victory of perception. The aura of Imperial invincibility was shattered. Word of this loss would spread quickly. Other species, long dominated by the Empire, would hear what happened today and begin to believe that the Empire could be defeated. The Vanguard was ready to leave. They hadn't come to stay. They had delivered their message. Now was the time to vanish before the Empire could mount a larger response. The Vanguard's engines flared to life, and in an instant, the ship disappeared into the void, leaving behind only wreckage, silence, and a stunned Imperial fleet. As the survivors began evaluating the damage, one truth became brutally clear. Earth, once ridiculed and dismissed, had revealed itself to be far more than anyone had predicted. The Empire would regroup, they would retaliate, but they now understood. They could no longer ignore humanity. Earth had become a formidable force. Back aboard the Vanguard, the crew remained focused. Their victory was clear, but they knew this was only the beginning. The Empire would come for them with everything they had, but the people were ready. They had been preparing for this moment for years, and now they had the technology and the will to face whatever came next. As the ship raced through the stars, the crew sat in silence, reflecting on what they had done. They had faced the full might of the Galactic Empire and won. But this victory wasn't just for them. It was for all of humanity. The Empire's reign of terror would no longer go unchallenged. The galaxy would rise because Earth had risen, and nothing would ever be the same again.